Okay. We're going to talk about Cartesian join in Tableau this afternoon. There is a file that I've set up, a folder that I've set up, the link up here. If you want to grab the data files, they're available for you. Unfortunately, I won't be able to provide the workbook just because the workbook is property of Oldcastle APG. But the data is really nothing sensitive there. As you see, we're just going to be dealing with a list of reports and a dates table. So I'm fine to provide you with that. I'm going to move over here to talk a little bit for a second about me and Tableau. I haven't been a user of Tableau for all that long, really just about a year and a half now. Was first introduced to it while I was in the BI Analytics certificate program at Emory back in the summer of 2017, and then I joined Oldcastle APG as an analyst developer in November. And that's when I started using it professionally. So it hasn't been a long road for me. I also support users. We provide training out of our group to our 20 operating companies. We have about 800 plus users that use Tableau. We call it self-serve, on a self-serve basis using the web authoring tools. And we also have, I think, over 2,000 users in total that engage with the data via dashboards, etc. So that's what I do there. And APG, Oldcastle APG, what they do sometimes, management there, they'll send out an email and you'll get copied on it, and that's how you'll find out that you volunteered to present at ATUG. So enough about that said. Here we go. We'll roll into the presentation here. I'm calling it a Cartesian join in Tableau. It's also known as a cross join, more commonly known as a cross join. If you say Cartesian join, people think that it's, wow, it's fancy, you're working hard. So that's what I chose to call it today. When do we need it? It's pretty easy to spot an opportunity for it. You usually have a data source with dates in it, but you don't have all the dates that you need to work with. Quite often you have a start date and an end date, but you need to trend over time and show your data points over time. So examples for that: human resources data. It's very common. You have a hire date, determination date. You need everything in between. Benefits enrollments, you have people rolling on and rolling off at different points in time. If you think about membership data, you've got enrollments and canceled memberships. Subscriptions, same thing. Start date and end date. So you guys can think there are a million applications for this, scenarios for it where it comes up. I thought I'd throw this in here. This is the textbook definition of the Cartesian product, which is what you end up getting from the Cartesian join. And it's simply all of the ordered pairs that you're going to get from the two sets of data when you mash them together. What that looks like in our world is, you have a couple of tables. There's a very simple example. You've got 3 rows in one, 3 rows in the other. After the join, you end up with 9 rows. So it's simply rows times rows plus the columns. So you end up, in this case, with 2 columns and 9 rows. So there's all the ordered pairs from those tables. Different ways to do it. It can be done in SQL. You're able to do it in Tableau Prep, Alteryx, and within Tableau you have a native inner join dialog that's always been there, and there's also a way to do it with a join calculation, which is the newer way to do it. It's not real new. It's been around for a couple of years, I think since version 9 point something. But I'm going to take you through, I'm going to ones that I'm going to be covering today are the last two on that list. And we're going to go through the native inner join most of the time because that will give you the visual and understanding of what's going on under the hood when you do a join calculation. And really, when we come around to doing the join calculation, that's going to take all of about a minute to complete. Our scenario that we're working with here, I'm going to show you, we just simply have a BI portal with the 200 plus reports and dashboards in it, and they're organized by category or channel. We wanted to do a little house cleaning and cleanup over time. So this source is really just going to show you a row for each of these reports. Each row has a live date and a kill date field in it, and what we want to accomplish is we want to be able to dynamically track the live items, the live reports that we have by month on a monthly basis well into the future. And we're looking to do this in a sustainable way where we don't have to touch it, because I don't want to be going in there every time the calendar changes over to a new month and have to get a new set of dates into the data set. Again, this is a situation we've got a start date and an end date basically in this scenario, and we're looking to get all of those additional data points, all the in-between dates into the data set and get it to update automatically. Our data looks like this. It's again simple data source, Intel. That's really your report name. That we have in the set, and each of those reports, if you look over to the right, you've got a date published, and then you potentially have a date killed. Don't mind that date enhanced column. We ended up not using it. If we were ever to put it into play and you start putting dates in there, that's not going to change anything that we covered here today. It wouldn't affect the way that we do the join, because the two key columns that would be the date published, the two key fields, the date published and the date killed. Is everybody able to see that okay in the back? Large enough? Okay. All right, so that's what we started with. What we really need is, we need to bring in many more dates, because we want the viz to be able to update well out into the future. I want this to go until, whatever, 2028, 2030. So we need to add that data set in. Now you'll notice here, these are monthly dates. If you wanted to trend over time on a daily basis, then you would just simply, on this dates table, when it's created, you would have to have all of the daily dates in there. So for December, you'd have to have 12/1 all the way through 12/31 in there and so forth for each month. But in our case, we just wanted to do it on a monthly basis, so that's why you're seeing only a monthly date over there. And then how far do you go out into the future? I mean, you got to make a decision on that. How long do you want the viz to live? And then you probably want to add something to that to make sure. Kind of a general rule that I have is I want to make sure that I'm not going to be around anymore when the viz breaks. So go far enough, right? Got to have a rule of thumb. This is what it's going to look like when we get into doing the cross join. We need to add an ID column to each data source, and then we're going to have a common ID field on every one of those rows. So in this case, I just put a 1 on every one of the rows in both tables. And our goal is simply to get to something like that. It's pretty simple here. We've got 4 categories of reports. I mean, it wouldn't matter if I had 50 categories of reports. I'd still get a line for every one of them. That's it. We're just trending reports over time. Now, to make that happen, of course, you knew it was coming, right? You gotta have some calculations in there to make it all work. So, job security, right? Some say it's a synonym for job security. I'm going to flip over here to my workbook. And okay, so we're going to get into the working part here, which is, this is, again, a reminder, the data set that we started with, and this went on, I think, 240 reports or so are on this list. And if we look at that, yeah, well, 224 to be exact. There's the number of rows, and you can see here, you know, we're just connected to that data set. We've got, you know, our ID, common ID field here that we added, and so we're at 224, and then our dates table have 121 rows in that table, 121 dates. So if you want to check on your calendar, if you take the 224 times the 121, you should come up with 27,104. And if you come up with anything else, don't say it now. See me afterwards. Don't ruin my presentation, okay? All right, so we've got 27,104 records. Let's take a look here. If we go to the join, this one I may need to blow this one up so you guys can see it a little bit better. There you go. You'll see that. So all we have on the two sheets, if we look at this, you know, we just use the ID field on the left side and the ID field on the right side. Did the join, it's an inner join. Okay, so this is what we're going for to get to this, and you'll notice here on the filter shelf, we've got a couple of Boolean filters in here, and that's where, you know, our calculations are going to come into play. The first one that I created is future date, and can you all see that? Or I need to blow that up in the back?
Blow it up a little bit.
A little bit bigger?
Okay. Yeah.
How's that? Better?
Good. That's about it.
Okay. All right, so all this calc is doing here is just saying, let's look at the dates table and let's find the dates in that dates table that are greater than today's date. So we date trunk on month of date in the dates table, and we date trunk on the month of today. And then we're going to set it to false. And the reason why we're going to set that to false is if we look here, you know, we're returning a false for the dates December 1, 2018 through April 1, 2019, the current month, right? And so what we want to accomplish with this filter is we don't want to be looking at anything that's out in the future yet. So we want to stop right here. So we're going to set it to false. And then as you notice, if you scroll down here, everything, you know, from May 1 on, you got it true. So we know that's working. Next one that we need is, I've got one in here called is date published valid. And we'll blow this one up too. Okay. What we're saying here is for date published, I'm going to look at the dates that are coming in from the dates table, and we're looking for a date where date published is less than or equal to the date that's coming into the dates table. And the same thing, we date trunk on month of the date published, and in the other table, we're date trunking on the month of the date. And the reason why we need this one in there is somebody puts a report in the data source on the list that they know is going to go live. It's going to go live next month in May. They put it on the list. I don't want it showing up in April in the viz. It shouldn't show up until it gets published. So that's why we need this one. And if we look at this, how this is working, see on the date published of 12/1, we're getting it true. Somebody has put, there is a report in here, or a viz in here that's not going to go live until May 10th. And that's why we're getting a false back on that one. And as you see, for December, January, February, March, April, we're getting the true false. And then, and then on May 1, we see that 510 goes true, which is what we want. And in our case, well, I'll get to that in just a second, but this showing here, by looking at it this way, we know that this calc is working. Then we have the next one is date killed valid? And this is where we're going to look at the date killed. And we're comparing to the dates table, and we're looking for date killed to be greater than or equal to the date that's coming over, the date in the dates table. Or we're also looking for nulls, because if it hasn't been, if it's null, then it's live. It hasn't been killed. If it hasn't been, we want to show everything that's live. So that's why we're looking for, dates killed that are out in the future. Because if they're out in the future, then the report is still currently live. So we're going to count it. And in our case, we're counting reports. If it has a kill date of May 1. We're going to show it in the viz because it was alive in May, even if it was only alive for one day or in April. So because we're doing this on a monthly basis. So if we look at how this works, and oh wait a minute, I didn't blow that one up for you guys in the back, so let's take a look at that. Okay. Now, if we look at how this is working, let's see, good for the nulls, we're seeing a true, which is what we want. And then when we're looking at the dates table, date compared to the date killed, we're getting a true here on all of these dates that are in the future as compared to December 1/18. Same thing in January. We're getting that. We're getting all trues. When we get down here into February, okay, so we killed some reports in January, in the month prior. So now they're going to return as false, as they should. So we got that. That's working. Next one. This one is real easy. This is simply, all that I've done here is I've taken both date published and date killed, combined them into one calc since they're both going to be set to true. That way, I can just have the one filter to combine both of them. And if we look at this, just to make sure that that's working, you've got, we've got true in both of these columns. We should get true over here. And if you look down, we are getting it. If you get a false in either one of these two columns here, you should get a false over here. And that's what we're getting. So it's working. And with that, we're able to get, we put those onto our filter shelf. We're able to accomplish our goal of creating this viz. Now that I know that those calcs are working, and then I can go ahead and use them in my filters, I could go ahead and put these in as data source filters, and I just get them off of my filter shelf. But doing it this way today just to present it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you how to do, that was the native inner join, so the old-fashioned way to do it. You can see how everything's working under the hood that way. This is the using the join calculation feature that's available in Tableau. So again, we're starting with our primary data source. We have 224 records in there, and then our dates table at 121 in there. If we look at those dates, there they are, going all the way out to 28. And you know, if you take a look here, we don't have, notice there's no ID column here, nor is there an ID column here. So we haven't put an ID column in either one of those data sources. We don't need to with the join calculation. We go over here, bring this guy out, and let me blow this up for you guys so you can see it better. Okay, whoops. Okay, so over here to the left side, go down to create join calculation, and all we're going to do here is put a 1. Say OK. On the right side, going to do the same thing, create join calc, call it a 1. Okay. Now you can see it brought in, we have our dates column over here with all of the dates in it, and if we go there, now we've got our 27,104, the same that we had the other way. And that is that quick. What is, of the two ways, which way? I mean, this way here, obviously, better. Does anybody know why that one's better? I like it because it's fast. But the real reason, the really good reason for it is that you can manipulate the data without touching the data sources. So if those data sources, in this case, that data source is mine, so you know it's okay. But that belongs to another department. It's their data source. I don't want to really be in there messing around with their data source. You know, so when they enter something wrong later, they say I did it. So, so this way you can do it, and you know you got it accomplished without going in there and creating that ID column. Let's see what else I got here. Winding things down here, we did that. Oh, Ken Fleurlage. Am I pronouncing his name correctly? Hopefully Ken is a newer Tableau Zen Master, and I think he became a Zen Master last year. And he has a good blog. You guys should check it out, kenfleurlage.com. And just a couple of weeks ago, he actually wrote an article on this. It's very well done. He calls it a date scaffold, creating a date scaffold in Tableau. And the cool thing about his article too is he also covers shows you how to do it in prep. So check that out. One thing that I didn't say earlier on when I went through the About Me slide is that, you know, a year and a half with Tableau, and I've gotten, you know, pretty good with it. It's really just a testament of how great the tool is. I mean, you guys know it's just easy to use, and if you set your mind to it, they make it real easy to get pretty good at something here, and it can really be, you know, transformational which it was for me. That's about all I had. Well, finished. So, with that, I ask, did it all make sense? Yes? Any questions? Yes, sir.
If I noticed that you had that aggregated to the month, if you needed it to be aggregated to the day, how would that be accomplished?
Yeah, you would have to have you would have to have all of the dates in there. The level of granularity that Tableau is just looking at the data. So if you don't have that level of granularity in there, it's not going to be able to return that. So yeah, you would put those dates in that table. All right.
And you created that calculated field in each of the separate data sources? Did you?
No, the calculated field
The
is
one and the one?
it's just in the workbook. One time on the filter shelf, yeah, and then the data sets are get connected through the cross join. Yes, sir.
Any downsides, use cases for doing
Now, you wrote the book. I haven't run into it the few times that I've had to do it. If you've got very, very large data source, yeah, then, prep or Alteryx. Yeah.
So
Yes,
if
sir.
you used a SQL query to join with this Excel data, like blended, maybe you can overcome the necessity to filter out the future dates, number one, and then maybe it will help with the performance too.
Oh, yeah. You could use a combination of approaches there, like we had the various methods listed earlier. You're right, you could take care of something in SQL and then, I just addressed everything here within the workbook. Good point.
Do you know if there's enough information in the server's repository so that you can be connected to the Postgres database, join it up with your date sheet so that you would have to manually touch the information about your workbooks?
I don't know the answer to that question. Anyone else? Paul, would you know?
I'm not sure I got all the gist of it. Could you repeat that question?
Someone at Tableau has published a UNIT data source form that connects to the Postgres repository. You can get information about the time of your server. I was wondering if there's enough of the attributes in the repository so that you can connect to it and do that join the database to create this.
So you're talking about specifically with Postgres?
Yeah, I was wondering if enough information is in there.
Yeah, Postgres, for those who don't know, basically anytime you do something in Tableau, on Tableau server, it's basically logging what action occurred. And there is documentation out there that will, it's kind of hard sometimes to get those joins right, because it's not the best. The person that probably is the best at that is someone by the name of Mark Jackson down at Piedmont Hospital. He's written extensively about Postgres and reporting on Postgres. But yeah, something similar to that, even though Postgres is more transactional, it's not whereas this is basically a start and a stopping point, a static start and stop. Postgres is very transactional, so you probably wouldn't need to do a Cartesian join, where it might be, and we're talking about multiple tables and performance. Tableau now with 2018.3, I think is when it came out, and when they first said this, it lacked significance to me. But when you save a hyper extract, I used to think of one table in a hyper extract. Well, now you can save multiple tables in a hyper extract, which allows you to do this type of thing much quicker, because in essence, in working with one large extract, you can do the joins within the hyper extract, and it's going to return much quicker. And I can give you a great example of that. Somebody from Europe was calling me and going, my Tableau workbook is running slow. Well, I had it to a live SQL database, okay, where he basically was doing what John was doing here. He was returning, for every user, he was returning a record. Well, I said, well, let's just put Tableau aside and let's just look at your SQL. He was returning 1 billion rows of okay. Well, SQL's not, it's not that Tableau's slow. Tableau's sitting there twiddling its thumb, waiting for SQL Server to come back with the results before it can display. So we put that now in a multi-table hyper, and it works perfectly. So, if you want to know more about Postgres, the guy down the street, Mark Jackson, also one of our Zen masters, if you Google him, lots of information about what those tables all mean.
Okay, good stuff.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your attention on this.